1 second.
Check, check, check.
There we go.
All right. I think we got the mic working now.
Maybe.
Okay. I don't know why projects couldn't rate in. We didn't have it. We didn't have the setting turned on at first. We turned it on, still didn't work. So don't know what happened there. James is telling me.
All right. So far we got RJ, we got Mad Dog, we got Kenneth in the chat. This week I've been busy prepping for stream, so I've already gone through half a bottle of Mountain Dew. And this week we're going with the Baja Cabo Citrus, which is kind of an orangey flavor. Not as good as the old Livewire, but still pretty good. Down under, Mike. Oh no, it's Mike. Pat, how y'all doing? Howie, nice to see you. So RJ, this printer is being called Ubuntu. How you doing, Projects? I'm heard. Of course I'm subscribed to you, Projects. Yeah, I don't know. I sat here and we turned it on after you told me and don't know what happened. But let's see here. So far our poll for pineapple on pizza is looking like a lot of people here like pineapple on pizza. I admit to nothing, Mad Dog. I didn't do it. You can't prove it. And even if you could, I deny it. But I do have a big question. For the chat. Let's see here. It's okay occasionally, like redheads. I take offense to that. Okay, I'm pinning a little question here in chat. But down under, redheads have plenty of souls. Every single freckle we have is a soul we've stolen. Yeah, I can English. But the question I have for anybody that, you know, feel free to go ahead and put it in chat and everything is if you have any questions for Fabrico, because I'm going to be going and actually recording my first non-live video tomorrow at Fabrico. And so if you guys have any questions, I can try to ask them. I've got James behind the camera. He's got a way that he can write down these questions so we can go through and make sure we have them on hand. Let's see here. Oh God. Projects, James has actually copied your question. And okay, Aussie storefront. Mike, can you be friends? Oh, this is gonna be there's gonna be some interesting questions in here. Yeah, I figured, you know, hey, I got to thank RJ for getting this set up and everything. We've been talking about it, but he's the one that actually put it together. And, you know, we figured, hey, we're Florida creators. We sit here and Fabrico's in our backyard, why not? John Doe, that's actually a really good question. I don't know. So maybe that's something we can find out. But, feel free if you think of a question throughout the stream. James is monitoring chat, so go ahead and put it in there. Maybe if we're in the middle of something, give it like a hashtag Fabrico to see it, so that way James knows that one's a question for Fabrico instead of me or him.
My mic is working, but if you can't tell, I am a bit sick, so I probably won't be talking a lot today, if at all.
Yeah, so mostly it's going to be me today, because we're letting James's voice recover as much as it can. Let's see here. You threw up a little. JD asked that. I'll take it you're not a fan of Mellow Down Under. Alright. I don't know if James is logged into Discord on his computer, but I can sit here and see. I'll be able to give him the phone after the stream. Kind of hard to get over to where he is right now. There's a 3-foot desk, then a 2-foot gap, and then another 2-foot desk between me and him. But where we left off last stream on our build is we got our power supply in, the SSR, the Leviathan board with the Pi, the Nighthawk adapter board, and we got the Pi flashed. So today we're gonna be working on wiring. But the first thing I gotta say before we do anything that involves wiring, especially with mains voltage, if you do not know what you are doing, do not do this. Like, mains voltage is deadly. High voltage in and of itself isn't. Amperage is. In the US, most amperage that you're going to be going, even to this thing, 15 amps. That goes across your heart, it will kill you. So please, if you buy a kit and you don't know what you're doing, get a friend that does. Get an there's probably a printer shop out there that can do it for you. Heck, you might even be able to find an electrician that sits here and enjoys 3D printing that can do it for you. But if you don't know what you're doing, do not mess around with mains voltage. That being said, this is also not a tutorial on how to do this. I'm following their guide, but at the same time, I've been working with mains voltage and everything long enough that I'm, if there's something wrong with their guide, I can, based on what's on these and everything, I can sit here and kind of, check that before I put any power to it. And we also have quite a few people here in chat, so that's it. Oh yeah, Mad Dog, yeah, lick your fingers, twist. But that only works if you're standing in a puddle of water. But without further ado, what I'm gonna start on is we're gonna go kind of backwards here, because when we're doing the wiring, LDO does a nice little thing where instead of wiring the bed directly to like the SSR or the board, they have a little breakout board where you have some Wagos and some JST adapters. That way you can get all of these, the cables go out from those, and then the bed plugs into this. So we can actually get this put together and on the frame and get the wires that go underneath all done up while still not having to put the bed on, because I am really trying to make that the last thing we put on, because these things, they get pretty heavy, and even without the bed, there's some weight to this thing. Add the bed in, it gets even worse. Let's see here. John Doe. Oh. Okay, so, but yeah, Mike, pixie wrangling. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. Arms all working on high voltage. No, but I have had to sit here. I've been on some job sites and everything where someone sat here and didn't follow safety procedures and got caught on a main line, and we're sitting here with a long non-conductive pole trying to rip them away from it. So yeah, it is not fun to be a part of or to see someone getting mains voltage going through them. So I can't stress this enough. If you don't know what you're doing, do not touch mains voltage. That being said, let me get over to our little manual here. Where did my wiring guide go? I know I had it. Here, 2.4, that one in a new tab. Here we go. Okay, so James, if you want to go ahead and switch us over, I'm going to show them. So on screen, this is what we're going to be starting to build. This is the little piece. It actually goes under the bed so you can get all of your wiring mounted to it. But you can do your underdeck wiring before you put the bed on. So let's get started with this. And of course, we get to start with, I'm sure by now, what has become everyone's favorite thing to see me do. And that's heat sets. Let's see here. You had turned off a power line. Yeah, it's... For those of you that have had to intervene with electrical and all that, it can be traumatic. That person that we had to pull away has no feeling left in his hands because he had 3rd-degree burns all over his hands. So let's sit here and get these heats. So this one we're putting on 2 heat sets. And this is going to hold a little PCB that's going to allow the bed thermistor to go in here. Let's see here. John Doe. Oh. Thank you, James. James was just letting me know that I wasn't doing it on camera. You know, James doesn't like to sit here and talk much. He doesn't want to be on screen, but I do want to give him, you know, the kudos he deserves for everything he does for this stream. Without him, my ADHD would make it so that half the time I'm distracted by talking with you guys, and the other half of the time I would be completely silent, just working on things. So, big shout out to James for what he's been doing and everything. And he's looking forward to tomorrow because one of his passions is actually editing video. So he's looking forward to editing our first video.
And remember, no non-live content until he finishes this printer. So the more I keep him on task, the quicker that happens.
Okay. So with this, our next step, we're going to sit here and grab our Wagos out, or Vagos, or however you pronounce it from wherever you are in the world. I know most of the English-speaking world, it's Wago, but I'm pretty sure the German pronunciation is Vago. Okay. I will say this is a little clever thing that LDO has done where, you know, they give you the heat sets to put the board in, but let me give you guys a close up here. There's actually a little notch. So that way all the through hole components can sit down in that notch, but the board can actually still sit flush. So little clever little design tricks. And something, you know, hey, those of you that sit here and work in CAD or design your own printers, you know, might be a nice little touch to add in if you do want like flush mounted boards and everything. So to hold these boards in, they want M3x6 button heads. Had those pulled out already. So we're just going to get these screwed in. Down under, you want to see James on the tools? I don't know, maybe I can throw him a tool and he can put his hand in front of the camera. I think that's about as comfortable as he gets with the camera. So with these, the Wagos just kind of slip in here. It is a pretty tight fit, but that is a nice thing to have because that means they're not going to slide out. Now let's see here. It is a really tight fit. And I get them down underneath. Where did my little flathead go? Pop that back out because I did not make it up under the lip for this. And if you don't get it under that lip, you won't be able to get it to, so there's a lip right here in the front. And if you don't get your Wago pushed down far enough, you won't be able to get it in far enough that the Wago sits behind that lip and locks in. So I've never done it on this one before, but we did ones on the other one. But what I found helps is I kind of go in from the front and start to slide them in. Down under, that is a great thing. Electric shocks are best left to Electroboom. You know, he is a professional who has the training and everything, and he's actually admitted that he shocks himself sometimes intentionally on camera to show people, you know, what could happen, but he's doing it in a safe way. He knows the risks that are involved. So yeah, the amount of training and everything Electroboom has had working with high electricity. If you want to see shocks and stuff like that, go watch him. It's the last thing I think anybody in this community wants. While it's entertaining to see on screen, to see the magic pixies released, we don't want to see anyone get hurt. Okay, so James says if I got shocked, he'd laugh at me first and then save me. All right, so what we need here, these are actually held. So this one is held to the inside of the rail with M5 roll-ins. And it's M5x10s that are going to go through the mount. So we're going to get some of these M5s in here, M5 roll-in nuts. And then I need my M5x10s, and these are M5x10 button heads. Down under. That is a great way of putting it. Let the magic smoke come from your electronics, not from people. Magic smoke from people is a bad time. Okay. So what we're going to do here is try to line up our roll-ins before we start screwing anything in. That looks pretty close. So we're gonna sit here. And I'm gonna need to switch to the ball head. We need our 3mm because let's see here. Okay, so we got one. Did I line this up properly? Nope. We're gonna rotate this so I can see where that is. There we go. Just a little bit off. All right. And I'm not too concerned about tightening this down right now because I know I'm going to have to move it later. Yeah. 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 RJ. I definitely don't want to be in your head. That's going to be a very scary place. Howie, different kind of smoke coming out of Snoop Dogg. Very different kind of smoke coming out of him. Okay, so then we're also going to put our Z probe in. And with that one, it wants M3s. So we're going to grab our M3 roll-ins. And that one's going to go on the other extrusion. To the bottom. Let's see here. And then with this, they want, I just read it, M3 by 25s. And they want socket head M3 by 25s. We're good. Okay. It's not our 3mm. Where is 2.5? Okay, now with this one, on all of these, there actually is kind of a little guiding rail to let you know what side is supposed to be up against that extrusion. So I don't know if you guys can see the little protrusion on this side. I'm just going to kind of try and get these lined up. It looks like when you do them together, if you face the holes for the hammerhead for the roll-ins out from each other and put them all the way up against each other, it looks like that is the correct spacing to get them in. Now I just get the fun of trying to get this in properly. Rotate. Yes, you guys can still see. Right, we got one in. Did I in fact get my spacing right? I did not. Oh yeah, Mike. There's your hair tie for today. Let's see here. Mad Dog. Ah. Mad Dog, are you calling out James for not hitting the magic buttons that show up on screen that he made? Okay, got that one in there. Okay, so I know why I couldn't get that other one in. So it turns out that you cannot put them end to end. They need to be going the same way for those holes to line up. So now that we've got those kind of in the same direction, we're going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to try and get those lined up beforehand. You know, sometimes these blind roll-ins can be quite frustrating to line up. All right, we've got one lined up. All right, we've got both lined up. And again, I'm not worried about going too tight on these right now, because I'm probably going to have to end up moving them. But I do want them tight enough that they'll make it so that I don't lose the screws out of the hammer roll-ins. So, one thing I did notice as I was going through the manual, the Z stop on each ends of the JST connectors, they are wired differently. The one with the two wires side by side, one in the middle, one on the left hand side, that one goes into the board. The one where it's on the left and the right side, that goes into the actual probe. So we're just going to get that kind of pushed in there. And then I need to get we're going to scroll down. We're going to skip ahead to where everything goes. So they want the neutral line going to our back Wago. Get that in there, make sure it's in there, and give it a good pull to make sure that we have a good contact. And then I need our bed live. Now the bed live has a fork connector on one side and a ferrule on the other, because the bed live is going to end up going to our SSR. We're going to just pull these down through our holes. The last thing that we're going to connect is the thermistor extension wire. Now that's just a black and white extension wire. It says on it bed TH for bed thermistor. This is going to go into the little JST circuit board that we put on earlier, because this way the bed has the thermistor wire, the neutral, and the live all kind of wrapped together, so they can all get put into those, and then these actually get routed to our boards, which I will say is a very nice touch. Instead of having to, you know, extend wires or make extensions that could come apart, having them on a nice secure connection like this is a very good thing. So Mad Dog, the bed actually does come pre-wired on this. They just add this as a secondary safety point, because now you're having a mechanical connection. So if something does go wrong, where like a cable pulls out or something, you also have, it can also sit here and causes a break in the wire. Now, one thing that I found really cool that LDO did, and Mad Dog, I know you got the Seaboard kit, so if they did this as well, I'd love to know that. But, you know, LDO sits here and pre-wires everything. They cut the wires to the correct lengths and everything. But what they've done is, you know, LDO does have, you know, their 48 volt kits. They know that the Leviathan is a 48 volt board. So they actually send 2 wiring harnesses, one for a 28 volt power, 24 volt power supply, and one for a 48. So we just need the 24 because that's all we have on this one. But it is cool to see that they actually send the cabling you would need if you were doing a 48 volt setup. So now that we have our underbed cabling all kind of pulled through here, we're gonna flip her over and put her on her head. Okay, we're just gonna get these kind of out of the way for now. Okay, so their next thing they want us to do is LED strips. I'm actually going to be doing that after I get this thing printing, because there are some mounts that you can print to hold the LED wires in. So I'm not going to do the LED strips just yet, because if you look on this little one right here, there's kind of an angled bracket to angle the lights in towards the center for the LEDs, and that doesn't come in the functional kit. Let's see here. No, John, I don't have to flip it over for everything. You are right on that. So with this, I did, between streams, I VHB taped down our center little raceway just because it's right between these two. And so I actually had to, I was checking to see if I could get these things on. So, but it's a really tight fit. So I had to kind of slide it in, but I wanted to get that in. So that is actually down, but these ones we still have play for around the outside. So again, they're just going over general placement of the raceways and everything. But the next thing they're having us do is our motor wiring. So I have not unbundled these yet or anything. So with these, there are two of these that have a black, I'm pretty sure that's a DuPont style connector on one end and a JST style connector on the other. We have two of those. Those are for your AB motors. Now, I'm pretty sure they are the same length, but we're going to make sure. Yeah, they are the exact same length. Hey, LTX, how you doing? So the AB motor cables are the exact same length. Now we're going to take the rest of these and get them separated out because, again, LDO does sit here and get these to the proper length. So if there is one that's longer or shorter, I want to make sure I'm using those for certain cables. But nope, these are all the same length. So we're going to take ours, we're going to orient it the same way that the manual has, which has, when we're looking at the manual, the back is the bottom on the manual on screen. So I'm going to make that facing towards me. So with this, we're going to take Z0, which is the front left motor, and make sure that we're getting the right side of the connector in. So yeah, there are two different style connectors here. You can see one is a 4-pin, one is a 5-pin, or actually 6-pin. So nope, I was wrong. Yeah, 4-pin on one, 6-pin on the other. They're just skipping 2 pins. The 6-pin is the one that actually goes into the stepper motor. And then this is going to come down through here. I'm going to go out through the middle. And here, and this Z0 is going to go all the way to our first stepper location. Try to get this kind of here, and I'm actually going to use, because a lot of things go through this center raceway. I'm going to try to use the side ones to hide our excess cable. That way I have as much room as possible in this center. So then from there, it goes in a clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on where you're from, direction for the naming of the motor. So Z0, Z1, Z2, Z3. Now we're going to do Z1. And Z1 is going to plug into the next location. And actually what I'm going to do here, just to make it a bit easier on us, I'm going to pop out the board. I can get these in because these are going kind of right underneath the board on us. And again, just tucking that little bit of extra into the raceway. Okay. Then we're going to go Z2, and this one's going to go in the opposite raceway. So Z2 goes into our third from the end. And Z3 is our last one. Is going to go into stepper 3 on our board. Let's see here. So Mad Dog, the reason I turned the pie back upwards is I had gone through and the little hat, it was putting quite a bit with those, even with the extension, it was putting quite a bit of strain on there. And so I did not want to put excess strain on it and damage those connectors, because I have had it where I've had other pies in the past where too much strain on those pins can cause them to break. Okay, and then we're going to grab our A and B motors. Get them kind of in there. Now I'm not going too crazy on the cable management for this because we are going to need to sit here and run these through the Z chain once we get to that step. Why they have us do the wiring before we get the Z chains in, I don't know, but there's got to be a plan for that. LTX, there are some crazy plans for later on this. All-wheel drive is a possibility on this one. And so if we do that, you know I'll need the Leviathan extension card. Oh, yeah, RJ and I went on a bit of a journey with the Leviathan expansion board. Because we were sitting here just deciding, hey, it may be something that we want to do in the future. let's try to find how to get this thing hooked up. So we're looking through for documentation and everything. There is nothing out there on, documentation on this board on how to wire it up. We're going through schematics, everything. Because, I had sworn that I'd seen somewhere where, when you get that Leviathan board, you jumper from the 24-48 volt in on the Leviathan board to the expansion board and then bring power in on the other side. We couldn't find this anywhere. An hour and 45 minutes later, we're sitting here still looking. We're going through the we've contacted the creator of the board, everything. Finally, I sat here, I'm like, RJ, I know I saw this somewhere. And I just happened to be watching Steve's little stealth burner build, and I'd gone back to the first one because I was going to watch it. And there he is talking about the boards on how you need to jumper from this connector right here to the jumper that's exactly opposite and everything. I'm like, an hour and 45 minutes to find that in a Steve Builds video. So that was a fun little thing. Yeah, the way the schematics writing, you have a J1 main line, but J1 main line, which is right here, but it also J2, they're connected. It was a nightmare trying to figure this thing out, but we got it figured out in the end. Yeah, the fact that it was 3 a.m. didn't help either. That definitely did not help. Okay. I'm going to go to the experience of those in the audience. I know that the steppers on the gantry are our A and B steppers. I don't know which one's which. Let me see if this shows it at all. Back right should be A and back left should be B. Okay, so if I'm looking from the front, that should be back left, that should be back right. So other thing we're going to do, LDO sends these little clips that you can mark off what things are. We're going to go ahead and put those things on. So I need B. So you said back left should be B. So we're going to take our little one that says B. Let's see. Yeah. And just clip that onto our B. So B, I'm going to take these cables and get them kind of out of the way right now. Where that comes in a step later. That one goes this way. Comes up around this way. So when you're putting in your steppers, your Z steppers go, you skip one, and then you'll see the two of these heat sinks on the Leviathan board. Those are actually your stepper drivers for your AB motors. Those are the ones that can go up to 48 volts. So we want to go this one for our B motor. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to grab our little one that says A and put that onto our A cable. And I'm not worried about going too tight and fancy on these right now because the only things that are going to kind of be in the proper place is this center raceway. Everything else is going to get tightened up and everything. Once we do everything else. Okay. Well, that didn't quite work out as planned, but we'll figure that out later. A-stepper has a notch out in the plastic part. Okay. So, yes, we did. That's a good call out, Repo. Thank you, Howie, LTX, and Repo for that. So we got those wired in here correctly. So we now have all of our steppers wired up. Now they're going saying, hey, look, it should look nice and pretty like this. Mine doesn't, because I haven't VHB'd down any of these raceways except for the center one yet. Actually, might make sense to take these and go the outside and over the top of this if I can. That way when we put the cover on, they're coming out the side, because for some reason, even on a 350, these DIN rails are very close together. Yeah, coming out that side might make more sense. So let's pop off our power supply real quick. Grab a bit of extra slack here. And get these coming out of the side of the raceway. Okay, this is, these small cables and these raceways are easy to work with, but at the same time not easy to work with. Okay, so I'm gonna get this thing mounted back on there. All right, that should give us enough that we can get that cover on once we're ready for that. Now they are calling out apparently some of their some of the LDO kits. The wire for your B motor is shorter. They have a different routing path for that, but ours were the same length, so I was able to follow their routing path of going through one raceway, up the other raceway, and over and in. So our next thing to do is we're going to take some little jumpers and we're going to go from our power inlet to the Wagos, and the way they're showing it is they want the center Wago on each one to be where you go in on this. So we're going to go protected earth or ground. Goes to the far right. Let's see here. Our live, these ones you match up, so you can see brown is live, blue is neutral. So brown is going to go directly below brown. And live is going to go to the second. And our neutral is going to go into our last Wago. All right, give me a second here. All right, so then I'm going to give him a good tug from the Wagos. Make sure that we have a nice, secure connection there. Those, I can't tug those out, so we have a nice, secure connection. Let's see here. Got too much hair in the way. How are we supposed to see the washer? You mean the Wago? So, RJ, this way, the LDO wiring diagram. The first Wago, which is 5 connectors, middle one is your protected earth or ground. The second one is your live. The third one, which is kind of under the port, is your neutral. Oh, yeah, but armor has the reflective head to see the washer. I get it now. Yeah, too much hair in the way to see the washer. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting it now. I can be a bit dense at times, but I got it, RJ. Okay. So if you want a close up, James, can you make the screen big? You can see protected earth, which is our green and white, because that's the way, that's actually the European way. Goes into this first set of Wagos. Your live, which is the brown, goes into the second. And your neutral, which is the blue, goes into the third. RJ is the president of his fan club. Okay, so now this is the next part is where we're taking our wiring harness that's pre-done, and you can see We've got our 24 volt. And the way they want this done is the one, if you're looking at, as I'm looking after this, the one just to the right of where we just put in all those connectors is where we're going to put these in. So we've got our ground. Let's see here. And we're going to do the ground last because that one has a bit of extra length on it. We got our neutral in. Our live in. And our ground in. Now the question is will I be able to take this through the raceway and all the way over? This is a pretty thick bundle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up the AB motor wires. And that actually got it pretty good. Get out of my power supply. Thankfully, I have no power going through here. And then these first three connectors are where we're going to be connecting. So from this side right here, live, neutral, earth, or ground. Let's see here. Okay, these are some really tight bends. We've got that in. Double check that I've got this pushed all the way in. All right, that's all the way in. And then our ground is all the way in. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to grab the ancient voltmeter, and we're going to test our continuity and make sure that we did not cross anything. Double check. Okay, so I'm actually going to go and touch our ground here to our ground, and that one we have continuity on. Good. Ground to our neutral, I've got nothing. Ground to our hot, I've got nothing. So I know at least the ground is not going over there. Now we're going to take our neutral and double check. So it's not going to ground. It's not going to hot. but I'm also not getting a continuity on our neutral. So let me make sure that everything is plugged in here all the way. That is a very good point. The little things you forget about. Yeah, this icon or PX in America, that was a good point. I did have the switch off, which of course, the whole point of the switch is to sit here and break that circuit. So with that, the neutral only goes to the neutral. Now we're going to check our live. I'm getting continuity to live. I have nothing on neutral, and I have nothing on ground. So we're going to flip that switch back off. And we know that our ground only has a continuous circuit going through the ground wires. Our neutral only has a continuous circuit going through the neutral wires, and our live only has a continuous circuit going to the live wires. PX, I have not set up the ground to the frame yet. We have not gotten to that point yet. They actually have us do that a bit later on in the build. So our next thing we're going to do now, on these, they mark these out as, you know, high voltage, two main board high voltage. So the little fork connectors are going to go on the power supply. The other ones are going to go into the terminals on the board. And in this case is the high voltage. Our high voltage actually goes in on this side, because that is our 24 volt in for our stepper motors. But we're not going to start with that one. I'm actually going to start with our board to the USB connector. So that's our SSR. This one is to the tool head. Let me see here. Which one is it that we're going to want the tool head one first, because the way that they want us to do this is the center two on our positive and negative. They want for the tool head one. Now, in all actuality, which of these negatives I connect the black to and which of these positive I connect to the red to does not matter. They all put out the same voltage. But because LDO does all their stuff with the lengths kind of predetermined, and I just lost the little thing that sits here and says, hey, this is how this goes. But because they predetermine the links, I want to make sure I wire it up the way that they are telling me to. So we're going to loosen our terminals here. And they've done a nice thing. They've marked it red and black so we know which one the red goes into. We're going to get that in as far as we can and then tighten it down. I'm going to rotate this around so I can see what I'm doing on this side. Okay. We're going to tighten that down. Loosen it up first and then tighten it down so it clamps. And do the same thing on this side, loosen it up. Get that in there and then tighten it up so it clamps in there. And again, just like we did on the Wagos, we're going to give them good tugs to make sure we have a nice solid connection here. Let's see here. Okay, so our next one is going to go let's see here. Motherboard high end, so (24-volt) to main board. Let's see here, and it says the 24-volt goes to the board terminals on the controller to the main board and PSU. So our board terminals are here. So the 24-volt 2 MB goes from the main board to this side. And so again, while where we connect the black and red on this do not matter, as long as the black is somewhere in the negative and the red is on the positive, I'm going to split it up and connect it the way that LDO wants to make sure I have enough length to reach where I need to. If you can, I would recommend not getting a screwdriver with a magnetic tip. It is quite annoying to have this continuing to go and hit up against the power supply casing and wanting to stick to it. Again, we're gonna pick up and rotate this so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Getting these ferrules in. We're going to loosen these up. And then on the board itself, it'll tell you which side is positive and which side is negative. So just remember, standard DC voltage, red is your positive, black and red is your negative. Now, if you have for some reason wired it up differently, you just need to make sure that your positive is going to your positive and your negative is going to your negative, or if you've done custom wiring or something of that sort. Because reversing those can release the magic smoke. Yeah, Ubuntu doesn't like being manhandled here, but it doesn't get a choice. And yeah, AK Ball, yes, it is, as RJ said, it is a 2.4. It's a 350 2.4. It is the LDO kit. Let me see if I can grab the little AB indicator that I dropped. Down in the raceway, I got it. Yeah, this is the kit by LDO AK Ball. Or is it AK Ball, AK Ball? How do you prefer that to be pronounced? Mad Dog, I know you want to see Magic Pixie Smoke. Everybody wants to see Magic Pixie Smoke when it's not their printer. Ugh. So then our last one that's going to come from the power supply to the board is high voltage. So HV on one side, 2 MB HV on the other. Now, in this case, it's not really that high a voltage because it is only 24 volts. But compared to everything else of 5 and 3 volts, that is a relatively high voltage. So yeah, so you're, as Down Under said, MCU boards switch their ground on a MOSFET, so output, so the positive voltage is always on. So if you wire them backwards, you just won't have a very good time. But a good way, the cool thing is like I said, the standard for DC, black for negative, red for positive. Once you get them all connected, the power, depending on your power supply actually says positive and negative, plus V, minus V, or V positive, V negative. V positive should only have red to it. V negative should only have black to it. We're gonna take, this is gonna go this way, and let's route that under there. And then we're going to go into here. And then back out. And again, on our board, it tells you which side is positive and which side is negative. So if you do not know which one it is, the board tells you. Give me a second here. I'm going to go quite a bit as I try to get the cable into its home. Just needs to go to its home. Why don't these things like their home? All cables should like their home. It's home. All right, and again, we're going to give these some good tugs just to make sure that they are properly seated in there. We're going to kind of tuck our wires away. Precursor and Armor 3D 0G would disagree. So, AK Ball, this is it's a vanilla LDO build. I'll say that. LDO does some modifications in their kit to the board as it is, or manual as it is from Voron. But other than that, it is the way that LDO has done their modifications. It is stock to their build. Okay, so our last one that we need to do is for the SSR. Now, with this one, you'll have, again, your pigtail again with barrels on one side and forks on the other. In this case, they specifically call out that your red cable goes to input 3, which, looking on as it is, I'm standing on this side. This one is 3, this is 4. Red goes to 3, black goes to 4. And they actually highlight in the manual, the SSR connection is critical. An incorrect connection can cause catastrophic damage. So yes, be very careful and very aware. Let's see here. Okay, so we have those in there. And John, yes, I'm trying to match the manual as much as possible. That way, if I ever need to go back and look at it, I can follow the wiring back through the manual. Any little thing I can do to make my life easier down the road. Okay, so I'm just trying to get this into our little raceway, and then I am feeding this under all of our stepper wires. That's there. They're going to go behind our main voltage, and then the SSR actually gets, you have the first 2 connectors, that's to your power supply. You skip 2, and then the last 2 are where the SSR connects. And again, it tells you positive and negative. So that is not the right screwdriver. I'm going to loosen this up. Get our red wire in. Get our black wire in. Give them some nice good tugs to make sure that we have a good solid connection and those aren't going to wiggle their way out. And we've got our SSR connected. Let's see here. Too many dings and distractions. Yeah, Discord can sit here and be a big distraction. But you can also get some good useful, and like RJ says, you can always mute that Discord so you don't get notifications from it. Speaking of Discords, we should have a link in the description to join our Discords if you ever want to come, hang out, talk. Hopefully eventually we would be able to get some help and advice and everything. For those that came in earlier, both myself and RJ are making a trip down to Fabrico to do a tour of their facility, and I'm asking for any questions you all have that you might want to ask Fabrico. I can't guarantee that they'll be asked, but if you have something you want, we can sit here and ask it. Go ahead and put it in chat. James will sit here and record it. So, just wanted to call that back out. Okay. So, the reason I did all of these earlier is for this next step now. Because what we're going to do is I have everything but our ground up here. The reason I don't have the ground is directly connected to the bed. And so because of that, because I don't have the bed in yet, obviously I'm not going to have the ground coming up here, but we can get the others in here. So the bed is actually going to come and it goes into our SSR and it goes into number 1. We're going to crack the SSR here and get that connected to side 1. Then we're going to take and I missed this on the last step. So on our live, we're going to go to the one just to the left of the connector that goes to the power supply for the just to the left of the main power cord, power input. And that is going to be our live that is going to connect to connection 2 on the SSR. Yep, so RJ, in my case, my wiring does match up to, or my SSR does match up to what they have there. So 1 goes directly to the bed, 2 goes to our live Wago, 3 goes to our positive to the board, 4 goes to our negative to the board. So then they're having us take our neutral cable, and instead of going through the raceway, because that could get quite crowded quite quickly, it just has us go directly across the raceway and into the Wago. go. I wish I didn't have such fat fingers. Fat fingers are not a benefit in this build, but what we're going to do is move that out of the way. And get that snapped in there, and we are good. That is on there properly. The only one that I can't do right now, coming from the bed, is the ground or protected earth. Let's see here. Oh, ask if they were start to sell set screws by the 100 quantity. All right, I think James has that copy, John, so we will sit here and ask if we can. Okay, so then we're going to take the bed thermistor, and that's going to kind of go up this way along the side. And we might, yep, we're finally going to get a cable going to go through the raceway at the top. Okay. Now let's make this picture a bit bigger here so I can see where this is going. Okay. So from here we have two 3 pins. The bed thermistor is going to go in the pin right after the first 2 3 pins. We have bed live, that's going to the SSR. We have bed neutral, which is coming directly over and going to our neutral Wago. We have our protected earth, which is not hooked up yet. And then our bed thermistor, which is going from the pass-through hole all the way around and into that first 2 pin connectors all the way to the left-hand side. So I don't know if I want to start putting these in yet, because these are for our XYN stops. Now, there are apparently 2 different versions of cables that you can get with this. One says, the little label that comes on them, say X stop and Y stop. Those are not the correct cables. What you want is for them to say, let me see, focus, XES and YES. Those ones are the correct cables, and they are pinned and properly cabled. If you don't have those, you're going to have to do some cables. You're going to have to do some repinning and moving around. I mean, John, there is always, you know, AliExpress, Granger, from what I understand, is also a good place to go for screws and the like. Okay, so one thing that LDO did do to make your life a little bit simpler, there are zip ties holding these things together. And of course, they all end in one connector at the end. So, in the case of this, the XY in stops are actually going to be going through our cable chain. But for now, we'll just loosely wire them around. We're going to go under our cable here, up through, under our cable for this stepper motor, up through. Okay, and the way these go is we have 3 connectors over here by the Raspberry Pi. The first one is X, the second one is Y, and the third one is Z. So our YES goes in the middle. Our XES goes to the right side. And then the last cable is our Z probe, or our Z in stop. And Mike, I know this cabling is a mess right now, but we're not quite at the point of cleaning that up yet. And our Z in stop goes all the way to the left. Okay. So this is LED strip, filter fan, and PCB fan, which I do not have the skirts to do the PCB fans yet. This has a Nevermore, which we haven't started building yet. Hey, Clownhammer, how you doing? And then I haven't done the LED light strips yet, so we can't wire those up yet. Okay. So with this, we do have where we're going to connect the ground or the protected earth to the frame. Now, again, these are all labeled, but you can always tell it says frame. You have a ring connector on here to get our frame ground. Now what they're saying, let's see here. I'm looking, okay. Use a providing ribbon cable to connect the display. We're not going to be connecting that yet because I do not have a mount for it. Let me see if the assembly manual gives a place where we're supposed to connect this ground to the frame, or how to do so. Because this because the LDO wiring guide is not telling me where it goes or what to connect it with. I'm assuming it's going to be a roll-in or something of that sort. Okay, this looks... That's just mounting everything. Going through here. That one they just show the ground going to the frame, but they don't say how to. Hey RJ, I know you're in contact with Jason. This would be a nice thing for them to include in this wiring section is, you know, it tells you to connect the frame protected earth to one of the Wago slots, but it doesn't say what to connect the ring connector to the frame with. Let me grab my drink here. RJ, there's a separate grounding. So there's two ring connector ones. There's one that goes to the bed, and that is marked bed protected earth. And there's one that actually goes to the frame itself to ground your frame. The bed protected earth I've got, but let's see here. Yeah, so I don't have a connection. Yeah, I'm gonna have to scratch the frame. So I'm gonna do some research on this grounding for the frame, because I am gonna need to get through that anodizing to actually get to the metal of the frame. Neutral rails are earthed, bolted to the bed extrusions. Yeah. John, you posted a link in stream chat. Give me a second here. James, will you go full face? Thank you. I'm so happy I made this stream chat channel. Okay. Oh. Let's see here. So this person, James, if you want to pull up the screen, we could show the link. Screws are powder coated. Be sure a good electrical contract between two extrusions, screws and bolts. A roll-in nut or a T-nut. They had a problem earthing the power amp. There was no electrical continuity anywhere. Had to remove the anodization in some places. Yep. before getting it sealed. Sodium hydroxide was his friend. Nice. We can read some generic instructions, but regularly no idea how extrusions have to be with Earth, but something must exist. Googled assuming earthing and found this. Edit. On the LDO kit, the DIN rail being earthed and bolted to the bed extrusion are in turn bolted to the frame, and the whole structure there is most likely. I think I want to buy this. That is a convenient thing. I'm still going to have to do some scratching on the frame to make it so that it will. But that is a very convenient thing. John, thank you for that link. I'm going to be spending money. Okay, so believe it or not, that's kind of where, let's see here, page 1. Keep going down, there's another version, and page 183 in the Voron manual. Yeah, so RJ, I did see that. The big thing is that it does not tell. It gives a generic on how to do it, not, hey, use a roll-in with this size in bolt, because while I have quite a few bolts here, don't want to run out. That's a problem. I'm out of Mountain Dew. No, there's actually not more. Yes, I finished the extra voltage that we had here too. James is shocked I actually finished my Mountain Dew. All right, but other than that, the next thing it's going through is saying, hey, do the software setup. So we're getting close here. I'm actually going to ask you guys, let's see, you're saying going down further, John, there's another one. That's showing those, which, yeah, I do have the locking washers. That's a lot of grounding right there. Well, they do ground every single thing to their... So, yeah, apparently the Trident, I guess, might tell you how to. But the Rev D does not. Let's go. Let's check and see if they said anything in the Rev C manual. Octopus. Yeah, Cyber, I've got that. It's what they want us to use to... Okay. That frame looks familiar, RJ. For those of you that don't know, or haven't been to it, RJ typically does his streams on Monday. Don't know if you've decided to change that date, RJ, or change time or anything, but I'll let you post that if you have. I know we won't be doing it tomorrow because we'll be down at Fabrico, but you know, he's also building a 2.4 and he's building the blue frame. that blue frame looks really nice. So if you haven't subscribed to RJ yet, you know, go ahead and do that. You able to post a link to RJ? Let's see here. Yeah, I don't have to worry about that anymore. We don't do the blocks anymore. Where is the step that says for the grounding wire? In stops, chambers, part fan, 5.2, Raspberry Pi, touchscreen, Ethernet jack. I guess on this one, that's why it's different on this one, because they used to use the terminal blocks on the Rev C, and those were grounded to the DIN rails, actually mounting to the frame in the Rev D. Yeah, that's where I just was, RJ, about the grounding. So it's use the provided ribbon cable to connect the Pi to the display. I don't have the mount for the display yet because I have to wait till the printer's up and running so I can print the skirts. Use the provided Ethernet cable, connect the rear Ethernet jack to the Pi, connect the USB cable to the Pi and the USB adapter, connect the PE frame end to a yellow Wago slot. Yeah, they're showing it connected there, but they're not saying. This one. They give it a bit further delay, RJ. There. Well, it's definitely an M5. You know what I'm betting? I'm betting that it is this single solitary M5x6 button head that we're going to use with one of the locking washers. And M5 rolling nut. We're going to take, and this is going to go on the back side. So I've got that. We're going to take our M5x6. And I need 3mm driver. This is our frame. This is not the easiest angle to get in here, and I think I see what they're doing, why they've done the locking washer, because as you're tightening the locking washer, it's actually going to scratch up the frame. So let me see if I can get this thing even started here. Okay, this is a big pain in the butt. So RJ, something I'm going to recommend when you're doing yours, put the put this frame grounding cable on before you put the power supply in. Let's see here. I'm going to pop out this power supply so I can actually get or try to get access to this M5 roll-in. Okay, well, the good news is I've got this thing started at least. Now let me grab my iFixit kit. And no, iFixit. There we go. There's the 3mm. Okay. We've got our plexi cable on here. There we go. So I just use, so what we found is, even though they don't tell us, there's a single M5 by 6 button head screw in the kit. So by process or by deduction, you know, the screw doesn't need to be that very long, but based on the image, the head of the screw for the grounding wire looks to be the same size as the one that held in our Wago connector, which was a M5. So based on that, you know, the M5 has to be the one that goes there. And so I put an M5 in there. Then you have some locking washers, which haven't been called out at all yet. But if you look on the image there, and James, if you want to make it big, you look right down here, you can kind of see that. Let me see if I can make that any bigger. Nah, it was already. You can kind of see that locking washer right in there, and that locking washer is actually quite sharp. So that's actually being used to scratch up the frame to make a grounding connection from the frame to your ground. So that way, if something were to go, the frame has a path to ground, so it cannot shock you. Yeah. They gave us a keystone. I happen to have an Ethernet cable just lying around. We're going to punch it down. Okay. But how you doing, David? You came in just near the end here because, well, I'm going to try to start making these streams a bit longer. Today is not that day because I have to sit here and drive good 5 hours or so tomorrow to get to Fabrico and pick up RJ. So I get to have fun tomorrow. David, I know you have contact with him, but if you do have any questions for Fabrico, let me and RJ know. We're going there tomorrow for a tour. And if anybody else has anything before we end the stream, if you want to put it in here, we'll try to get your questions asked. I can't promise anything, but we'll try to get them. Yeah, Mike, if I could sit here and go live, I would, but let's see here. You've just down under, you just rebuilt the Bamboo A1 from motion system to tool head. They use too many screws. It is kind of nice that, you know, it's M3s and M5s pretty much almost the entire build. Now, there are a lot of different M3s and different M5. Well, there's a lot of different M3s in this build. Not as many M5s, but there's still quite a few. But yeah, we've got a friend that's got an A1 Mini that he's actually using that to print miniatures because he sat here and got a gift card to a store, and that store did not sell resin printers. So he was like, well, I want to get into it. So he bought an A1 Mini and then went out and bought a 0.2 nozzle. And they're actually coming out pretty nice. So if anybody ever sits here and tells you, oh no, you can't print miniatures on an FDM, you might not be able to get as good as quality and you might have to do some extra work with them, but you can most certainly print a miniatures on an FDM printer. A blob of doom from the tool head that made it into the base. Down under that does not sound like a fun project. All right, well, hopefully I'm going to be able to get a fun video of RJ trying Vegemite. We'll see if he's up for it. RJ, I do have it with me. But other than that, I will see you all next week. 7 o'clock like normal, except for the one time. Thank you, Kenneth. And down under, that's actually not bad for an hour's worth of work. Oh, see, RJ, Mad Dog wants you to sit here. Do it. All right, and Jason's looking into that thing now. But yeah, you all have a good night. I'm still working on coming out with an outro. So I will see you next week.